is your primary way to play via the cloud streaming, right? Whereas Xbox is saying, we're giving you this as a supplement. It is just an option for you to do. If you want to buy our console, you can buy your console. If you want to build a PC, you can build a PC. This is just supplemental way to play gaming. So your primary way to play won't necessarily change in the short term.
Right.
But if I'm on a train and I'm going somewhere and I just quick want to hop on Gears and check out something really quick, that option is available to me.
Welcome everybody to the Casually Hardcore Podcast. My name is Brian. This is episode 40, and today I'm happy to hopefully introduce you to a fantastic creator, been a part of the Gamertagradio podcast for a while now. You didn't start it back in 2005, but a good member of the team, Destiny advocate, player, all around just awesome guy. Parris, welcome to the program. Today we're going to be talking about the state of gaming in 2019 and beyond. And so I really asked you on the podcast because you have a lot of really interesting perspective. You're going out to TwitchCon, this week. You're going to be out there on a panel. And also, you just crossed over 3,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel. Hopefully that's a decent introduction. But if I missed anything, Parris, will you introduce yourself to the workforce and tell people where they can find you?
Thank you for that intro. I really appreciate it. I think you went well above and beyond. But yeah, I'm Parris, co-host on game podcast called Gamertagradio, which has been around since 2005. I joined them in 2013. We're also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gamertagradio. We actually stream the podcast live when we record every Sunday and Wednesday. And yeah, on a personal side, I started my own YouTube channel, and it's baby steps, right? So I hit I don't remember, about 3,500 subscribers, something like that right now. But it's mainly just a place for me to kind of stretch my legs creative wise as far as doing video content. I come on there, I talk about Cyberpunk, I talk about Destiny, I talk about the Division 2, just things that interest me on a personal level. So it's been a lot of fun, but I'm excited to be on here and talk about gaming. And like I said, I'm pretty sure we'll wind up getting into Destiny because I love playing some Destiny.
Oh, me too, man. I'm so excited. This is going to be a conversational podcast, as typically they are. They're also a creator-focused podcast, which you can find on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, pretty much wherever podcasts can be found. We'll also include links to everywhere you can find Parris and Gamertagradio to go and give your support for these guys who are making just fantastic content that's around a lot of different conversations. Now, being that it is a conversation, we've got an outline. That does not mean we're going to follow it because it could go in any number of directions. So we hope that you enjoyed the show. If you do, please give us a like. Also hit that subscribe button and or give us a review over on iTunes as well. We do want to do a little business first. We want to thank our partnership with Exit Lag and Shadow PC. We've got links in the description if you guys are interested in supporting the channel and checking out those services. Hit the links below. That some conversation might come up about them because we will be talking about the future of gaming, and cloud gaming is something that outside of the US is an interesting thing. Inside the US, I think a lot of gamers are skeptical, but we'll probably dive into that. First question, real kind of general topic though. Parris, what are you playing? Shadowkeep drops next week.
It's funny. I've actually been playing a lot of Destiny 2 past few weeks.
Farming the mats and stuff. Like, are you prepping? Like,
I was chasing seals. I was chasing titles. So I actually just got dredging the other day.
Dude, congrats.
Where I looked and I was way behind, and I wound up doing 2 infamy resets in season 7 within like a couple week period, and just chased everything that I needed and got it, and chasing Cursebreaker, things like that. So I've been playing a lot of that. I'm a huge Witcher fan. Okay. Like I love The Witcher 3. I think it's it is, in my opinion, the best game that's come out this generation. So I always like to go back in and try different scenarios with that. So I kind of just play that leisurely as well. A lot of Gwent, things like that.
Got a question. I got to jump in on that though. So like I have Witcher 3. I'm a dad. I got young kids though. I was like, all right, I'll check out this Witcher 3 thing. And then it's like, and this is now a game that is played when the kids are in bed. And so I don't know how old your kids are, but like, how's that balance with a game like Witcher? because it opens up pretty strong.
Yeah, when it comes to my kids, and I think that's a topic we'll get into more in depth later. But when it comes to my kids, games like that, yeah, I don't let them play it. I don't play it around them. I'm lucky enough to have an office where I can close the door when I play games like that.
That's the key to any adult gamer. Yeah. Oh, sorry, but go ahead.
But the other games I've been playing a lot of Gears 5 because that just came out, did that for review as well. Control, which is something I kind of slacked on, which I've been jumping into more recently, which is fantastic. And Borderlands 3, which I fully admit is just not for me. I've never been big into the Borderlands games, and that's okay. Yeah. I understand the following with that. I understand how much people love it, and this isn't a slight on what Borderlands 3 is. It's a good game. It's just not something that I'm going to invest a ton of time.
I got a question for you, though, because essentially, like, Borderlands 2 is a game that I sunk probably 2 or 3 years of total game time in. I really enjoyed that, played it with my friends. But we also ran into a similar wall when Borderlands 3 was coming out with, like you mentioned, Gears 5. Like, pretty much you and I sound like we're playing the same games minus Control. Like, Gears 5 came out. I've been a huge Gears fan my whole life, and I haven't been able to quit Gears 5 yet. Like, I haven't even done the campaign. I'm talking about I've just been in Escape, Horde, and Versus, and for whatever reason, it just feels great. Beyond me, though, Borderlands 3, I looked at it, I was like, man, like, that's a game that I'm looking forward to playing, but I just don't have time between Destiny with Gears. Like, I was like, it just kind of falls in this weird time where, like, I would only be able to play it for like a week, maybe less. And as a dad and all the game life balance and with work, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just wait. I'll wait to get it later this year. And then the question to you is that when I looked at it, I go, there's no incentive for me to play on day one, which works for me as a human being. But right. When I look at Destiny with Season on the Undying, when I look at Gears, it has seasonal based content. When I look at like all of these games going into it, and I'm not saying that I want all games to go seasonal. I'm just saying that there is a hook there that I didn't necessarily feel I had to be day and date, which works for me. It's a complex idea. It's a complex feeling because I was like, all right, if I don't have to be there on day one, I can check it out on Stadia later. I can check it out maybe next year, and I'm still going to have a great experience and probably even a better one, considering how some of the bugs. But that's like, I don't fault any company for bugs, especially if they get them fixed. What are your thoughts like on that, like that hook?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a FOMO factor with certain games that push you to want to be there day one because you don't want to miss out on something, right? There's that communal feeling of saying I was there day one, we're participating in all this together. But then there's other games. Look at this
skin, look at this title,
Right. Well, there's other games where you don't necessarily need to have that. And at my age and my responsibilities and my time factor to be able to play certain games, like I'm extremely picky when it comes to what I play and what I invest my time into. So it's kind of like you're saying, if there's a game where I don't have to be there day one to play it, I'm not going to be there day one. Unless it's just something that I'm reviewing or whatever the case. Like Control is a great example of that, where Control is something that I didn't have to review. I knew it was a game I wanted to play, but since it was just a single player experience, I didn't have to be there day one. Because I was at Gamescom, I was transitioning from that, I had a work commitment. So it was like, I'll put that on the back burner. I'll get to it when I get to it, and that's fine. So we're in a state now where we have these games as a service, and I feel like they absolutely compete for your time. And again, going back to the Borderlands 3 thing, that is something that is a game as a service, I guess you want to call it, that I don't have that FOMO factor with it. I don't feel like if I'm not playing it day one, if I'm not playing it for an extended amount of time, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. You know what I mean? Whereas Destiny, absolutely, I feel like I'm missing something.
Right. Does that do a disservice, though, right, to what Borderlands started, right? I'm just curious. Do you think it does a disservice?
No, repeat that last part again. I'm sorry.
Without that hook, without that essentially that drive to be day and date on the one, is that I look at it from a market perspective, right? If that we skip it, or more people choose to wait. They wait for Steam, and then other games come out, and then they start to compete, right? Isn't like I look at their I don't know if it's good or bad, and I'm not sitting here saying it's bad by any means. It is a concern that the market has essentially decided that that's not necessarily what gamers want in mass, not in individual, like in generalization. You understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I'd actually bring in the Division 2 as
Yeah.
an example of this, where the Division 2 was something which I'm a huge fan of, and I still play it, but it had, in my opinion, the best launch of any of these kind of games, right? I
Mhm.
thought it was fantastic. It was very engaging. I couldn't wait to get home every day to play it, but then it hit a wall where, all right, I've done everything. Now what? The loot isn't appealing. What am I doing? I've done the raid. I've done everything. Now what? They're suffering through this right now, where they're trying to fix it and get it back to a point where it's going to re-engage people. And like I said, for me with Borderlands, playing it's not engaging me on a loot thing. I don't feel like there's that carrot on the end of the stick that's pushing me to want to keep logging in every day to play it. I feel like, okay, I get it. I'm done. I'm good.
Okay.
And that's here in 2019 going into 2020 with these next gen of games. That's where we are with Fortnite. Has obviously been a huge influence on this.
Yeah.
What's the carrot on the end of the stick that's going to make me, after that initial engagement, to want to keep coming back? Sure, you can put in new content, things like that, but is it compelling content that excites me? That, again, the FOMO factor. Do I feel like I'm missing out if I don't engage with this content on day one?
What about the streaming factor, though? The one there's
That's
one
obviously huge too.
Yeah. So like that's where I'm wondering to see if there's ends up being a massive drop off. I hope there's not. Like I'm always rooting for devs. I've actually I've had friends that actually made Borderlands 2. Like they're no longer with Gearbox, but they have such a huge passion for that. They're such really interesting guys. It's funny because they could never play the release version because they bugged and beta tested so much of the game that they're like, yeah, it's like I've spent, a million hours with it, like pixel it bit by pixel. But is there any other games that you're playing? Because I feel honestly that once Destiny 2 Shadowkeep drops, like that there's going to be that pile that's just kind of waiting for you. So are you playing any other games right now before next week, or is there anything else that you're looking forward to release this year?
Ghost Recon, which I know that I think that beta is happening this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Ghost Recon, something that I'll be checking out. I'm actually going to be reviewing it. I'm very intrigued by Modern Warfare. I really have enjoyed what I've played on the multiplayer aspect of it, and that campaign that's coming with it looks like a breath of fresh air to kind of get Call of Duty back to its quote unquote roots. So I'm really looking forward to that. A game that I was highly skeptical of, and when I first saw it, I kind of wasn't excited about it, but then I went back and watched the full 26-minute demo on it from EA Play, I guess you should say, is Jedi Fallen Order. That's something I'm really looking forward to in November, but I also bring up the fact of it being a complete single-player experience. It's not something I have to get day one, because it's just single player. I can play it whenever I want, but it's definitely something that's on my radar that I want to check out.
There's a kind of interesting phenomenon that happens within gaming culture, though, is a part of it, like where you have these persistent long games that people play for years and years and years. Destiny is being one of those. But then you kind of have these asides, like God of War. You have these single player experiences that people seem to clamor for, but they are kind of like a moment in history where sometimes the game, like gamers take a breath from the multiplayer to go have this single player experience and enjoy it if the game is good. So if Fallen Order is really good, you're going to see a huge amount of people like just, jump on it. You're going to see everybody, exclaim that single player games are back. And then a month later, no one's talking, no one's talking about it anymore, and they've moved on to whatever kind of the new hotness is. It's such an interesting thing that, like, at least from what I feel like is when I as a gamer a long time, it's like it's interesting to see how the industry's been shaped by streaming, by the fact of streaming culture, where our eyes, watching and where things are, and so that's why we've also seen more investment both into multiplayer games and into microtransactions themselves. Now, you brought up an interesting game because just this morning, kind of news is breaking, and I saw you tweet about it. The timed exclusive mode for Call of Duty, not just a timed exclusive, because this is where it gets murky. I really want to get your opinion here. But Call of Duty is an annualized franchise. It seems like it's almost literally an exclusive for a year, which we saw that happen for PlayStation Destiny players every year. There's always like kind of a year worth of exclusive content on the PlayStation. What do you think about the Call of Duty move here? I mean, bravo to PlayStation for, spending the money, but
I don't like it.
Yeah.
And just to bring perspective in it, I never liked it for Destiny either when they were doing it on that, which, by the way, is what got me to go to PlayStation back in 2014 to play it, because I'm like, well, there's extra content there. That's where I'm going to play it. So I understand why publishers do this. They invest the money. Obviously, Borderlands we see with exclusivity deal on the Epic Store, things like that. But as a gamer, I don't like that, especially with Call of Duty. You're taking a mode and you're making it exclusive to one platform for a year, where we know that Call of Duty is an annual franchise, especially going into next year, where we're going to get a next-gen Call of Duty in 2020. So everyone's going to move on from Modern Warfare in a year. So you're going to have people on Xbox and PC that, to be quite honest, are probably never going to really experience this mode, because by the time they get access to it, they're not going to be playing Modern Warfare anymore unless they do something radical that breaks the cycle of what we've seen the past 10 years with Call of Duty. So I don't like it in that aspect. You're segmenting the audience. I understand PlayStation is obviously throwing a lot of money at Activision to make this happen. I get it. I get why it happens from a business perspective, but as a gamer, no, this is terrible. I mean, I would rather look if it was like a couple months, 3 months. Okay, fine, whatever.
What would be the right amount of time? Because obviously, that's a commodity, right? They're like PlayStation is buying a commodity from Activision. What's the right amount of time? Because you're right. If the game was a 5-year game or a 10-year game like Destiny, like okay, it sucks. 100%, a year sucks. But in a year, everybody is still able to play, right? And the other thing that makes this a weird factor, kind of just as an aside, is Modern Warfare's crossplay. So it's like PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and then PlayStation has this little thing. So like, what's the right amount of time? What would be the right amount of time or the appropriate amount of time for this?
Okay, because this is unfortunately a necessary evil in the business. I get it. I would say max 3 months, 90 days. 90 days from launch, you have this exclusive mode. All right, done. In my opinion, realistically, I would want nothing. I mean, just, hey, the game is the game and you play it wherever you want, especially when we look at the fact that if you think about it, Call of Duty Modern Warfare is the first AAA title to do crossplay in the modern era. And to be quite honest, it is the biggest game that potentially could be doing crossplay, because Call of Duty every year, if it's not the highest selling, it's the second highest selling game of that year. Millions and millions of people are going to be playing this game this holiday, right? And the fact that they're doing crossplay, where they're telling you, look, we don't care what platform you pick it on, you all get to play together, is amazing. I'm going to play it on PC personally, so I'm not going to play it on PlayStation 4, so I'm going to lose out on that mode, but I'll get to play with my Xbox buddies, I'll get to play with my PlayStation buddies. That's great. But now you're taking a mode potentially, and look, they're saying, oh, it's only 1% of the game, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But what if this mode takes off? What if it's like the best thing that happens in Call of Duty? Doubtful, but let's just say it does for argument's sake.
Yeah.
You've now only limited it to the PlayStation audience for what is essentially the true life of the game, a 1-year period, because once we get to October, November 2020, we're going to be talking about playing Call of Duty, whatever, on PlayStation 5 and Scarlet. And PC, so it's unfortunate.
So it's an interesting, just I guess, consequence of crossplay though, because before what they would sell you is early access to the maps or early access to this. Xbox is completely guilty of this. PlayStation's doing it now. Honestly, I think the connecting factor here and how it all somewhat ties into Destiny is Activision. Activision is the one who's bundling this and who's selling this as a commodity, because they're the ones who are cashing the check by Sony. But what do you sell when you have crossplay? Because if like somebody has access to a map, you're dividing out that community. And so I think it was like, well, we can't do that now if we're going to really kind of embrace crossplay. What can we sell? It is weird that it's its own mode. It's weird that it's like its own little thing out there. And so, yeah, like if it ends up being hugely successful, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. We'll have to. Call of Duty is in this weird spot. Like I was, it seems to, like, I'm wondering if the campaign is going to help kind of reignite its steam. I think it's going to sell incredibly well. It will do what it does. It's why it's annualized by Activision, because it prints money for them. And so until it changes, we won't see that. So you obviously talking about PC gaming, and one of the things that we've seen this year, like when Microsoft announced it, that's all of a sudden when my head turned, because I hadn't ever considered cloud gaming a thing. But then obviously with Xbox with its cross, kind of pushing for cross play, but even with Play Anywhere and all of that, they're diluting any need to own an Xbox. And if anybody's played Destiny 2 on PC, they'll know that the PC is the premier experience for that game. And then when you go back and play it on like an Xbox, you're like, man, the loading screens are awful. Man, this is like, I wish I was playing on a PC. But cloud gaming is essentially something that is just about to just, I think, really disrupt emerging markets as opposed to anything in the United States. You tweeted it out. Like, you were saying, like, I'm not going to, like, with Gears, like, Microsoft's like, no reason to have a console. Like, what's your perspective on that? Because I'll share mine in a second. What's your take on PC gaming? And then when you look at the old fashioned console wars.
So yeah, I've been talking about this for the past few months. If you look, and actually, let me take the story all the way back here. So, sure. Excuse me. In 2016, I went to San Francisco. Xbox had what's called the Spring Showcase. They don't do it anymore, but back then they were still doing the Spring Showcase. I went to the one that was in 2016 in San Francisco, and Phil Spencer kicked off the showcase with the keynote. And this was around the time Quantum Break was coming out, things like that, and he laid out basically his vision for the future of, at the time they were doing, what was it? It doesn't matter. But basically he was kind of talking about Windows gaming, Windows 10, all that, and kind of just this unified system. And, you know, it was the groundwork. And then at E3 that year, that's when they announced Xbox Play Anywhere, right? So that was like, hey, any first party Xbox game, you can play it on Windows, etc. So I say that to bring us to where we are right now here in 2019. We're at this point where it is becoming common nature to have all the Xbox games to be playable on Windows. We have Xbox Game Pass and now Game Pass Ultimate, where basically what Microsoft has done is they've taken Xbox and they're like, look, we'll still make a console. We'll give you a kick butt console. Don't worry about that. If that's what you want to do for the convenience factor, knock yourself out. Yeah. But if you want to invest the money and build a high-end gaming PC, we got you there too. All our games will be there as well. And guess what? We're going to give you the subscription service where all our games are a part of that. Just we've gone from being, you know, a platform to a service.
Right.
Now you throw in what they're trying to do with Project X Cloud. And I love the fact that you brought up, like, when we're talking offline, like India, markets like that, where, hey, maybe they don't necessarily, you know, it's not going to be commonplace to have a high-end gaming PC in the house, to have, you know, a console, whatever, but
or to jump in. Well, not just your phone, but or to have the nostalgia that's going to drive you to go and understand why you should purchase that system, right? Like, I'm buying consoles today because I bought consoles previously. I'm ingrained. I understand the cycle. I have a nostalgia for the new console experience and the new start of a new generation, right? Where a country like India, like, you have your phone, a lot of mobility. With also, what's really cool about them is when you look at the United States versus India, they have obviously a more condensed population, but a geographically smaller area means they can have better and higher quality internet as a standard, as these companies are investing billions and they're investing billions of dollars into this so that they can kind of try to capture that market. I cut you off, but go ahead.
No. And I was just going to bring up the fact that I was like, hey, you have your phone. Like, if you're just, again, use India as an example, they're eventually going to get the infrastructure for 5G. 5G is the future of where cell and all that goes. So it's not even about what internet I have at home. It's the internet that's going to be on my phone. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Microsoft doesn't want me talking about this. So they're playing, and Phil Spencer even mentioned this, that they're targeting billions, not millions. They're trying to get that casual audience that isn't necessarily playing on the console today or playing on the PC today. They're trying to get that casual market that the platform that they will always have with them is their phone. Yeah. That's what Project X Cloud is. That's what Stadia is attempting to become. EA is also trying to jump into this as well.
Yeah, EA was a curveball. When they said that, I was like, wait, like what? And that's one of the things Microsoft said is like, yeah, we're probably never going to buy EA because they're trying to do a lot of the same things we're doing. It would just be kind of like buying up, you know, wasted investment. But go ahead.
Right. And then, you know, obviously, you know, PlayStation Now as well, they're doing the cloud gaming. So I've been a big skeptic of the cloud gaming stuff. Like, it's not going to work because I was, you know, I did OnLive back in the day, things like that. But I have to say, when I was at Gamescom this year, I did Project X Cloud. It freaking worked. It worked. It was buttery smooth, worked just fine. I also did Stadia, which I still don't understand 100% what Stadia is trying to target, because they're still asking you to buy retail games at retail price and not without a subscription. But that's another discussion. But Stadia works. It does. It 100% works. It worked great. So
I can say, like, we use, like, one of the sponsors for the channel is Shadow PC. It's cloud gaming PC, and that's what all of a sudden the glass shattered. And I've been playing Gears 5, Final Fantasy XIV, Destiny 2. I've been playing all these games in the cloud. None of them are installed. Like, all my PC games are no longer running in the office. They're running in the data center, and it's buttery smooth. And I am doing PvP, and I'm dominating. I'm doing, like, it's like I am not having a bad experience with the cloud. And obviously I'm in Texas. I have solid, awesome internet. That the United States is not the market that they're shooting for.
Not.
It's going to be a market 2040, 2035. Some, like, when you take in 10, 15, 20 years, that's a different conversation. But anyway, it's just mind-blowing. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add on to that and say my only thing here in the short term is just kind of going back to the Stadia argument. I'm more in favor of what Xbox is doing versus what Google is doing, in the sense that Google is saying Stadia is your primary way to play via the cloud streaming, right? Whereas Xbox is saying, we're giving you this as a supplement. It is just an option for you to do. If you want to buy our console, you can buy your console. If you want to build a PC, you can build a PC. This is just supplemental way to play gaming. So your primary way to play won't necessarily change in the short term.
Right.
But if I'm on a train and I'm going somewhere and I just quick want to hop on Gears and check out something really quick, that option is available to me. Not to mention, they're giving you a subscription service where, we're giving you all our games. You just give us 10 or 15 bucks a month, versus Stadia, where what they're doing is they're asking me to invest my money into their system with no promise that I'm going to 100% own those games if that service goes away. Where at least with Xbox, hey, I can download it on my hard drive and I can have it forever potentially, whereas that option's not going to be there. So that's where I'm still skeptical of it in the short term. But I do think in the long term, 10, 15 years from now, it is going to be very commonplace to just stream your games online.
Ownership is a real key factor. Privacy, security. There's a lot of things, especially then I think anybody who's skeptical of cloud gaming, especially in like North America, totally reasonable things to be concerned about, because as consumers, we need to voice our opinion. One of the things that I think is kind of an example of how that's kind of played out is in Blu-ray sales versus kind of digital. If you go buy a Blu-ray disc now, you get the physical disc, you get a digital copy. They even throw in the DVD. It's like, here, like, please buy our product. And that's where it'll be interesting to see how Stadia's reception impacts the model. Because if you buy a game in Stadia and you can also then install it locally, I think that helps kind of ease that out. But I have a friend who works for Apple, and he told me, he's like, yeah, Stadia is going to be fine as long as Google doesn't get bored.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. Whereas at least with Xbox, they're not saying this is the only way you can play our games now, and if Azure were to go away tomorrow, you're screwed. And that's my worry with Stadia.
So I want to kind of shift focus here on talking about building healthy gaming communities. You posted just, I think, a beautiful, just from the heart topic. And what this kind of relates to, though, is that you and I are both parents. And my kids aren't online. They're still too little. But this is something that I see as an adult. Like, how can we, both as like parents, but also in the online space, you with your podcast and your YouTube channel, me with my podcast and YouTube channel, how can we as just the individuals continue to try to reaffirm a positive and healthy way of thought? Obviously, I think how that video came to be was from an unfortunate overstep. I don't know how to best qualify it. I think I'm probably doing a poor job. But you're going to be talking about a panel on building healthy communities over at TwitchCon this weekend. What are your thoughts as a dad and as a gamer? Like, what, and obviously as a minority, as an African American and a gamer in this country.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this topic up. So to just try and cliff note what I said. So full context, EA has an initiative they're doing called Building Healthy Communities, and they invited me to be a part of their player council. And we had our first meeting over in Gamescom in Germany. And It was basically getting us telling our stories, our experiences online in these communities, and what suggestions and what things can we do to try and quote unquote build a better, healthy community, right? So my whole point on this has been accountability. There's zero accountability online right now.
Right.
You know, people can say and do basically whatever the hell they want, and there's no repercussions to it. So until we see more accountability online and we see stiffer penalties for quote unquote breaking these rules, you're going to continue to see this. And like you said, I am a minority. I have seen and heard it all. You know what I'm saying? So from my perspective, it's a real thing that should not just be shrugged off as, oh, well, toughen up. That's just how it is online. No, people should not have to toughen up to be online. Again, I do not let my children play online unless I'm there with them and supervising who they're interacting with and who they're dealing with. And that's the shame of this. What needs to happen, and what part of this whole council is building better in-game tools for reporting, you know, like I said, having stiffer penalties, you know, clearly explaining out the rules of being on a service. Because again, being online is not a right, it's a privilege. So if you're going to break the rules of whatever these providers are doing, you need to be kicked off, period, point blank. That's just bottom line what it has to come down to. So that's kind of what I was talking about in my video. That's what we're talking about in Germany, and that's what I'm going to be talking about again here at Twitch. And, you know, I brought up the fact that the reality of it is, if you're a person of color, if you're a woman, or you're a gay person, you are constantly harassed online, constantly. You know, the second that someone realizes I'm an African American online, I hear every racist word there is. The second a woman opens her mouth online, she is harassed. That has to stop, period.
We've had conversations like with Yoshi P. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. Final Fantasy XIV is just a game that I've been playing for years and love. But one of the things that the community has asked for is voice, like with built-in game. And we've got Discord. Like, there's a lot of services for games out there now. But Yoshi P has stated no, because he wants to give people who did not let them feel like they have to be forced to communicate, namely, like, you know, with any female or whatever, because there is this weird shift that happens, like, oh my gosh, it's a girl. Like, girls can play games, you know, everybody can play games. I'd like what Phil Spencer said as talking about his initiative of the inclusivity of games unite us all in this just beautiful way. I think it's when you take out everything, all the stupid things that separate us, that we separate ourselves by, games are something that it's like they can really bridge gaps and allow people to form relationships and more. You know, it's like, I don't want to sit here and, you know, pretend like I have any kind of dog in the fight, right? Because it's like, if anything else, like, I'm a white, you know, male, you know, born in America, like, you know, like, there has been I have rarely felt any kind of prejudice online or off, but I have seen it. My best friend would, you know, he'd get stopped because he's a 6'5" tall black guy, just like salt of the earth. But whenever we were hanging out, like, I as a kid, I never really recognized it, but as a teenager, all of a sudden it's like, wait, there's something odd happening here. My brother-in-law actually is African American, and he gets pulled over, you know, 70-80 times a month. Like, it's just like, just driving the speed limit. But so it was just this real sad reality about our humanity. And the goal, at least from my perspective, is to try to always make people feel welcomed, and to also try to correct that. But that's just my perspective. You look like you got a thought. Sorry.
Yeah, and I just want to say everything that you're saying. See, unfortunately, that's the reality of our world. Unfortunately, like, just to give perspective, my wife is white. I have biracial children. I mean, I live, thankfully, in a neighborhood where that is very commonplace. Everyone gets along. There's no real issue in my day-to-day as far as my children have to worry about being harassed or whatever. But the point of going online, or we go to a different neighborhood or wherever, then that starts to become a rally. Then that's when, you know, I'm driving down the street, I can get pulled over by the cops, things like that. I'm not trying to steer the conversation too much into that. Other than just say that I want to use Destiny as an example. Mm-hmm. So I love, you know why I love that playing Destiny so much? Because in my personal opinion, it is one of the best communities in game. It just is the way it's structured, the way people want to help each other out and we do things together. But a sad reality of even that community is none of us go into public voice chat. You either, if you're playing on PC, we're jumping into Discord. If I'm on Xbox or PlayStation, I'm jumping to a party chat to communicate with people, because even in a community that good and that I love so much, it is so toxic in the public space, because again, there's zero accountability when you go there. You will hear some of the most horrible things are said, and you report someone and the reality of it is nothing happens, or at least the perspective is nothing happens. And if someone gets booted off or whatever, they go grab their burner account and they're right back to harassing people again. This is the point that I've been trying to really enforce, that, you know, we obviously as a community need to self-police. We need to tell people to knock this stuff off.
It's the cheapest and most effective way.
It is. Yeah. It really is. But one of the things that I brought up in the video that I said before and people got mad at me, but I just think it's the truth. As a parent, I say this: be a better parent to your kids, because I guarantee you and look, there's a lot of adults that do this nonsense too, but there's also a lot of children that go online and they go unchecked, and there's no accountability from them on the parent side. We need to sit down with our kids. We need to talk with them and explain that this behavior is not okay. Because if we're doing it at a parental level, as they grow into teens and adults, then they're going to be good people, and they're not going to want to do stuff like that. Look, my kids know if I were to ever catch them doing something crazy like that online, there will be repercussions to that. But that is my job as a father and as a parent, to make sure that they don't do things like that. So I do think it really all starts in the house, in the home, like I said, with our children, raising them the right way. Because think about it, you know, I'm not sure how old you are, but, you know, I remember a time before there was an internet, when you went to go have fun, you went outside, right? You went outside and played with your friends, and you actually had real human interaction. And we didn't have those problems back then, but we do now, because kids are able to sit online and they have the veil of being anonymous, and they can just do whatever they want.
I think it's the veil of anonymous. I think it's because essentially, let's say your friend was acting, being a jerk, you know, whatever, just saying things he shouldn't. You could look at your friend and be like, punch him in the nose. You're just like, what are you doing, dude?
This is my point.
You know, pop him. You know, it's there was automatically that self connection, but also that ownership of it, because it's that anonymity. I think you hit the nail on the head, because like as a parent, like I can't solve the problem of today, but I can try to help make a better tomorrow. And a lot of that is the investment with kids, and especially as they mature into this world that's now, you know, driven by social media, driven by all these things, where we see anxiety and stress, especially in young girls, just going through the roof due to these natures. And so it's like I'm sitting here just like trying to make sure I can understand it as well, so I can infer to them to ideally help them become better, you know, human beings, so that they can also then set an example. I think it is that example. That's why one of the reasons, like, I use my name. My name's Brian. I don't hide behind some invisible wall. And I do that. And yeah, there is a risk, you know, if somebody actively wanted to try and be a dick, to come in and try to mess with my world. And, you know, hopefully that never comes down to it, because like I try to actively, what I call kind of just love the hate that gets thrown my way. And I feel, and I don't want to sit here, and I'm not trying to say that I'm on some kind of like pedestal, or I'm some kind of like hero, or I'm some kind of victim, because I'm not. Like, I don't get it. I'm not a minority. I am not like in any of these categories where people just get hated on. But like I feel like it is a kind of a responsibility as a parent to try and help locally, like engage with that. And one of the things that we've seen, it's not always successful. A lot of people are welcome to their opinion about gingers, but I do get a lot of ginger hate. It was always weird. I was like, all right. But people come in, and I feel like there's one part of the anonymity, one part of the anger is that I feel people constantly feel like they're shouting into a void. And what I have learned, and again, like maybe 20% successful, when I respond with the hello, that all of a sudden there becomes an opportunity to have a relationship and to say like, yeah, that's kind of offensive the way you said that. And all of a sudden the conversation and then everything can kind of start to heal in a way. I don't know if that's going to work for everybody because it's not everybody's job to sit here and get beat up online. But no, I like what you said about, I think a lot of the effort comes from the kids. Now, as far as ISPs go, because the real thing you brought up a thing about, yeah, I'm just going to go get on this burner account and I'm just going to continue to go and, and do this. But an ISP kind of thing, that would end up being allowing for some kind of real punishment. Imagine a dad coming home from a long day at work. Maybe he's disengaged. I'm not going to judge any parent out there for how they do or don't do, their parenting job in this way. But imagine coming home and finding out like you've been banned from the internet for like 14 days because your kid went and did, they were harassing somebody online. That's like a real quick way that like, wait a minute, why can't I watch Netflix? What did you do? Like, like that would be something that I don't know, hopefully would not end poorly, but it would be just something where I do. It's a freaking complex issue and it sucks because like when it comes down to gaming is such a fun thing. It's when you have these communities, they're so positive. I've never felt more loved and more accepted and more connected with my fellow man than as an adult who, especially with kids, I don't go to the bar. Like I go online, I go play Destiny, I go play Final Fantasy. I go like, that's my social club, of the modern world. Any other thoughts on the building healthy communities, guys? Check him out at the PAX panel this weekend if you're going to TwitchCon. Not PAX panel, the Twitch panel. Yeah. Any final thoughts on building healthy communities?
I mean, it really just comes down to this, and I say this a lot online. It's just like, let's just be kind to each other. Just be kind. It is so easy to do something nice for someone versus just being toxic and rude and trying to say the most hateful things to get a rise out of someone. It's just, I was never raised that way. So I don't understand that mentality. But again, like we said at the top, I think a lot of that has to do with people being anonymous and not having any repercussions. And that's where this unfortunately needs to go with online gaming. There needs to be accountability for who you are when you're playing online, and when you do something and you're reported, there's repercussions to that. That's bottom line what has to happen. I guarantee you once it does start to happen, we'll see a lot of reduction in just this online harassment and racism and everything else that we see.
Yeah. All right. Well said. So for we're going to shift back for a little bit of Destiny 2 Shadowkeep to kind of round out the podcast, because Shadowkeep drops next Tuesday. They've released kind of their launch trailer. This is essentially what's alluding to kind of maybe a 5-year plan. But if you guys read the big 3-part series from Luke Smith, when I read that, I read it as Destiny 3's on its way. Destiny 2 versus Destiny 3. What are your thoughts?
See, I'm glad you brought that up with what Luke said during the Vidoc about a 5-year plan, because I took that as, we're not getting a Destiny 3. See, I'm of this thought that, do we really need a numeral on the end of Destiny moving forward?
They need to cut the numeral.
I almost think even here with Destiny 2, and maybe that's where they go in 2020, just drop the 2. Whatever you're going to do to continue to advance the game, I mean, hey, you just add to it with expansions. Even if the engine changes at some point, we upgrade the engine, all that. But it's just Destiny at this point. We're in this world, we're invested into this ongoing story. I mean, even going back to the FOMO thing, I mean, Luke has even addressed that directly about that's what they're building towards, where there's going to be these events and these world-altering things that happen that, you had to be there when this happened. Right. And that's what I love. That to me goes back to what the original vision of what this game was going to be when we first heard about it in 2013. And I think now, and look, I don't know if it's because they're away from Activision, whatever the case may be. And look, I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. But now that Bungie actually controls Destiny and they can make the game that they want to make, I think this is where it's headed. So I don't think we're going to see a Destiny 3. In my personal opinion, I just think we're getting Destiny, and I think that's what the 5-year plan is.
I hope we never see Destiny 3. I hope, just like you, 100% that it just becomes Destiny. I like that they're launching Destiny New Light, kind of as an onboarding entry point, especially with the free-to-play model. That in and of itself, I think, is just genius. And the only thing that was concerning when I was in here, and it was kind of my final concern about returning after I left, and it was that, like, are they just going to reset everything in a year or 2 years? Just like, again, and then we have to start all over. And I was like, oh, God, that's not going to be fun. But how they're doing it and how they're trying to lay it out, for me, ultimately says, like, okay, yeah, like, even if when the Xbox Scarlet, PlayStation 5, cloud, like PC, etc., is this new engine, it's building off of really what worked. And hopefully they can kind of toss out, it's going to be a great expense to them, but toss out all the things that Activision kind of made them do. Because one of the things that really, like, you could kind of feel when after you beat Destiny 2's like campaign was that, like, wait, like, this isn't Destiny. Like, this is some, like, consumer, like, focus. Like, why did you leave Destiny? Like, the community was just, like, at odds and just really shocked by it. And so I think when now that we've seen 6v6 PvP come back, and now with Shadowkeep, Widow's Court, other classic Destiny 1 maps are coming back, which for me makes the most sense because those were balanced originally on 6v6.
6v6.
And the changes they're already talking about PvP, the the evolving world, the seasonal aspect. What's your thoughts on the season pass? Because I've seen mixed reception to the concept, especially with Season Undying, including exotics.
I'm of two minds of it. I get why they're doing it, and I like the path of having the season pass, which allows them more flexibility from season to season. If we start to see certain trends that they want to be able to steer us away from, or if they see certain things that they want to push us more towards, they're able to adjust that on the fly with the season pass. That I like. I don't like, and I understand why they're doing it, because they have the free to play model, and you want to reward people to invest, so then they wind up buying stuff on and on. But I don't like that there's exotics that you can acquire inside the season pass. That I don't like. I want my loot, and especially the higher tier loot, to be earned, to be something that I need to go through a multiple quests through, or I need to complete a certain objective. There needs to be something tied to it that I'm chasing, versus just, all right, if I play the game long enough and I get enough XP, all right, I get this exotic. Because what if that turns out to be an exotic that is a top tier weapon, that is a game changing weapon, like in a raid or something like that? You just go get it. And it's not a thing of, I had to go through this complex quest to obtain it, and I feel like I earned it, so to speak. So I'm in favor. Like, I absolutely love the season model of what they're doing. I understand the season pass to it. Look, they got to monetize this stuff. I get it, 100% get it.
Yeah. If nobody pays, eventually, like, oh, I love that game. What happened? Well, yeah, the company closed down, and they all went to work somewhere else.
But I wish it would be tweaked, and they've fully admitted. At Gamescom, I got to sit down and interview them. We talked about this, and hey, it's a wait and see thing. Let's see how it works.
Yeah.
And if the community is saying they don't like this, we have the flexibility now to adjust. So it really goes back on Bungie. If they're truly listening to the community, which all signs show that they are. Obviously, look at everything they've done over the past year and a half. It can be changed as we move forward, because they've not announced anything beyond this season and this season pass on what they're doing. So they can see, they can adjust, and we can move forward from there. So I'm excited to see what happens with the future.
Do you feel Bungie is able to better listen now? Because that's one of the things that came up.
Yeah, with I can tell you for a 1,000% fact. Yes, I know that for a fact. They're definitely able to, for sure.
What do you think changed? Is it is it the separation? Yeah.
That's what changed. Just trust me, that's what changed. Their PR, their marketing, their community teams, they're in control of what they're doing now, versus basically having an overlord with the publisher, Activision. Well, no, we don't want to do this. No, we don't want to do that. They're in control of it now. So it's all on them.
Right. Now, that's what I've kind of said, is that for anybody who's considering coming back, you can go preload Destiny New Light right now on Steam, and you tweeted out your friend code. I friended you, and then I was like, good idea. I should tweet mine out, because I don't have many Steam friends, because I haven't really played much on that platform. But one of the things I think is just truly that I'm seeing is that it is their game to lose now in that regards, because they've had the boogeyman, which in my mind is Activision. Somebody tweeted out like which has to go, EA, Activision, whatever. I know a lot of people put a lot of hate on EA, and I think they've plenty earned any kind of animosity from the gaming community. But when I look at it, I think Activision's the one that I just like. When I love their IPs more at Activision, but I think that Activision seems to be probably more of the Emperor Palpatine kind of behind the scenes, just like they don't have to be fun, they just have to make money. Sell part of Modern Warfare to the PlayStation universe. Like, it just feels like Activision is the one that continues to do things, and they just don't care. They do these things because they know people are going to buy them. What are your thoughts, EA versus Activision? We're just going off script here.
I don't even want to say I want to be careful with my words. I'm not one to just 100% pile on either one, because while they've both done some ridiculous things along with the monetization, microtransactions, loot boxes, things like that I am definitely against, like we talked even earlier, like with Modern Warfare, with the exclusive deal, things like that, I do not like. They've also done a lot of great things in the industry as well. Again, as an example, this building healthy communities thing, that's an EA thing, right? Trust me, I'm not talking to you right now if it wasn't for EA and Activision. They helped me a lot in my early days. So there's definitely a give and take on that. I try to look at both sides of it when it comes to that. But yes, I 100% do think they've both earned the reputations that they have when it comes to the bad side of gaming, because they've been leaders in that. Again, with the loot box stuff, things like that. I will give EA credit moving forward that they've identified that. Again, look at Jedi Fallen Order. There's no microtransactions or loot boxes in that at all. But then on the flip side, let's see how that translates to sales as well, because if they're not seeing the return on investment, guess what? They're going to go right back to what they were doing.
And that's where one of the things I've tried to have some conversations with my community, and that's where, like, I know I'm always going to rock the boat, because there is an entrenched and ingrained, and I don't fault anybody for looking at MTX and looking at loot boxes and just saying like they are wrong and we must resist them. Totally agree. But the question that I always follow up with is how? How do you combat that? And if it's that Jedi Fallen Order, EA is like, okay, we're listening. Here's this game, and if it's a really good game and it's awesome and people go and love it, that's going to help out a long run. But there'll still be people who are like, no, never again. And then all you're doing is reaffirming that the loot box system and the MTX system is what gamers want, because you go look at Fortnite, $2 billion a year. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, like, wait a minute, like, why don't we, like, we're a business, why don't we want that product? Oh, gamers are telling us they want X, and then we make X and they don't go and engage with it. Well, obviously they don't want X, right? Because it's like, how do you listen to a billion people? And it's like, well, you look and you follow the money in that regards. Well, what's your hot take on loot boxes? Obviously, different countries are weighing in on gambling or not. I'm curious as your thoughts, because I think you just pretty much solved them by saying, like, if Fallen Order's good, just go buy Fallen Order, and that will send a clear message. What are your thoughts?
I don't like loot boxes. The specific look, microtransactions I get. If you're telling me to purchase a cosmetic and I know exactly what I'm getting when I give you my money, that's just a choice. Go do it, right? But a loot box is, for all intents and purposes, gambling. Another publisher,
it has the same dopamine, it has the same bull crap. And as an adult, I can go run the slots, but I have to travel to go do that. It's in my home now with loot boxes. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, my thing, the other publisher that we didn't bring up into this is 2K, because look at what they're doing with the NBA 2K. I mean, they're literally taking the loot box. That is a freaking casino in NBA 2K20, and they're targeting it at kids. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not down with that stuff. I don't like that. So I'm glad we're starting to see more governments get involved to regulate this stuff, because it's a travesty. Like me personally, I like Destiny as an example. I've not bought anything from Eververse ever, and I never will. But that's my choice. Yeah. And I still can enjoy the game. See, the reality of it is, if you go back, Fortnite obviously is doing a great job of this right now and is having huge success. But you know who laid out the template for this years ago and has just been having a successful run here the past few years? Warframe. Warframe does it.
Warframe, League of Legends, like they have the
Yeah,
battle
they
pass.
do it right.
Yeah.
No one's complaining about Warframe, and people obviously are buying stuff in Warframe all the time.
Well, and you can
So
opt in and opt out, right? So it's
exactly.
like, yeah, or you're like, oh, maybe I really don't want that. Like it ends up providing back, even looping this back to Destiny, a better feedback mechanism to be able to kind of judge whether people are enjoying something or not. Because if I skip out on the next season, if they say, hey, we're doing it this season, and people are like, like I can opt out of that season now, and then I can jump back in for the next one. It's providing us a better real time feedback, and also that it helps that with that financial incentive. It means that my opting out has a stronger impact than if it was just like, well, I still have to buy it later anyway if I want to get into the newer content, etc. But my whole take, I think the way that loot boxes could be fixed, I don't, because like as much as I look at the government and say that's going to take forever, for them to go in and try to have that right level of nuance, I go, it makes me upset at the ESA and the ESRB because I wish they would just say loot boxes, great. If you can buy them for cash, AO rating or at least M rating, where it's like those mechanics are not for kids. And the problem is that you also have vulnerable adults. That's like, I can't solve all the problems, and nor am I trying to. But I think that if they were able to sit here and smack it with a kind of like the kiss of death AO rating, all of a sudden then you would start to see that. But you're 100% right with 2K. Like, it's just like in the commercial, somebody augmented the commercial because they show adults in the commercial and they put kids in, who are the ones who are really going to be doing that there. The other aspect that I think that, and it'd be interesting, as a parent yourself, because it comes down to educating our kids. Like, I'm trying to do as best as I can to create parent guides on how to make sure your credit card is not hooked up to these freaking slot machines, because that's essentially the other thing, is that like that parent comes home and it's like, I've already talked to 10 parents, like in the business world, who've like had conversations like, oh, you spent $600 on Fortnite. Oh, you spent $800 on Fortnite. Like $2 billion isn't just materializing out of thin air. There's a weird level of pressure. I don't know if you're aware. How, like, are your kids in school yet?
Yeah,
okay.
They are.
There's a weird level of pressure, and my kids are like, Maddie's not getting it. She's just in kindergarten. But for my other like parent friends, like, yeah, their kids are being bullied because they're using the default skin, being called in Fortnite a default because they haven't bought the skin. And so the FOMO aspect is leading into the kids being just stupid kids and bullying each other on, I guess, the fact that their parents can afford. Because I don't know any kid with money. So that's always kind of the thing that makes me laugh. Like, oh, you own that? As my daughter will say, like, oh yeah, this is mine. I was like, I'm sorry, like, you own what? Like, this is not your house. This is my house. I let you live here legally until you're 18. No, I'm just kidding. She can stay here for as long as she needs. Yeah, it's such a complex issue. It's such a complex issue, and that's where I think. I mean, you said it right, and then we're going to jump into our final thoughts here. But you said it right when it comes to engaging in the systems that make sense, because that sends the loudest message. Yeah.
No, 100%.
So, Parris, what are your kind of final thoughts? We covered a ton of things in this show. So when we have kind of our segment for final thoughts, hopes, and concerns of anything that we talked about, as well as anything that you're working on, and where can people find you?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to do this. I really enjoyed the talk that we had. Just my final thoughts. I mean, we're in a very interesting and exciting time for gaming. Like, we didn't even talk about like The Last of Us 2 is going to come out in February. That's going to obviously be a big event. I didn't even get into Cyberpunk. That Cyberpunk 2077 is probably my biggest obsession right now out of anything. So I'm really looking forward to that in early 2020. I'll be investing hundreds of hours into that. Obviously, just the Destiny train is just going to continue to roll, so I'll continue to be playing that. I would just say on a personal note, like I kind of said at the top, I got my fledgling YouTube channel, so I'm continuing to build and create content to put up there. And like I said, just talk about everything under the sun with gaming. Where you can find me, on Twitter. It's pretty simple. It's at Vicious696. I'm on there rambling about something all the time. Our podcast is Gamertagradio. You can find that basically everywhere. Your favorite RSS feed catcher, we're there. like I said, we're also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gamertagradio. We record the podcast live on there if you want to tune in to a live showing every Sunday and Wednesday. And then again, like I said, my YouTube channel. So that's where I am online.
Guys, all his contact information also is in the link in the descriptions of this video when it goes up on YouTube on Monday. So go check him out, give him a follow, check out Gamertagradio, and then let us know what you guys think in the comments below, as well as give us a rating. If you guys missed our last show, we had Az from Heels versus Babyface on talking about WoW Classic. It's such an interesting thing to see kind of how that plays out. And next week we have DM21 Gaming coming on to talk to us about Mixer. And more. So we've got a lot of fun shows. Chris, again, is in Scotland, so hopefully he's having a fantastic vacation. And I see there were some questions in chat, so if you have a few minutes, we can hang out and answer some questions. But if not, I understand. But for Work to Game, my name is Brian. That's Parris. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.